checks as being a way to prevent, even save lives with in medical systems or in financial transfer systems. If somebody enters a ridiculous amount, 1,000 times the radiation that a patient is supposed to get or something, the sensibility check should be built into every system. This is design principle. So I just highlighted that. I don't know if you can see, yeah.
Perfect.
I just highlighted that, right? So I know that ReadWise is going to pick that up and is going to sync it in, I don't know how frequently it syncs. It'll sync shortly into.
Stop.
Yeah.
So you just highlighted that right now?
Yes.
As you were just reading and you just highlighted it?
Just as I was talking to you, yes.
Did you capture the fleeting note?
No.
Why not? Can you go to the next one? Can you go to the next one?
You want me to?
I just want you, I literally want to see the entire process, and we're going to build, hopefully in this time, we can build up your first permanent note in your Zettelkasten. But I want to literally see you just do the whole process, and I'm just going to help guide you along.
Okay. And I will gladly do that. And I really appreciate the help.
You see what I'm doing?
Well, my lingering question is, and I hate to get wrapped up on any technicalities, and I hope that this isn't one, is, like I said, is every highlight I make, like I know ReadWise is going to pick it up. It's going to SRS, right? It's going to bring it back to me periodically. What I do is every morning, that's part of my morning routine, is I do my ReadWise highlights that it brings back to my attention. And if something really speaks to me in those, because many of those predated Rome and a lot of these other things, then I would grab it. And to me, in my new workflow that's starting today, I would turn that into a Zettel, right? I would do something with that. Right now, I'm at least pulling it into my daily notes to keep it in front of me all day, and have a record of it that, this is something that's more than just an average highlight. So I don't know, so that's my question for you, Bo, is that, do you really do a fleeting note in a Zettel for every highlight, or just the good ones? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm having trouble seeing that they're all the same.
That's a great question. How long have you been highlighting? Your entire life?
Yeah, since ebooks came out.
Your entire life. Okay. How long have you really comprehended it really owned this bottom-up structure workflow?
Compared to, I don't know, 5 days.
Yeah. Okay. You know what they always tell me? Like, I was always taught that, if you want to, what do you do when you want a new car? And it's not just go out and buy a new car, or you have to give up on the car you got. You have to let it go. And it's hard because this is so certain and it's so familiar, and so Sonke talked about it in the book. It's so comfortable and easy and frictionless. And my only thing that I'm going to say is, oh, it's worth it. It's so worth it. If you haven't seen the shared graph yet, if you just all you have to do, it's a mind trip. But if you just imagine for a second, if every one of those notes was yours, and every time you added a new note to the Zettelkasten, you were adding to this thing that's you. And it doesn't matter how well I explain it to you, you're not going to understand what it feels like until you hit about 60, 70, 80 permanent notes, right? And I'm talking about real quality permanent notes. And when that happens, you're going to be like, I understand why Bo is up till 5:30 in the morning. And that's the only thing I can say. And you're on track. You're doing phenomenal. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm looking at your captured list right now. It's killer. It's exactly what you need. You have about 3, 4, 5 top level bullet points. All you have to do is abstract that out. Obviously, I seen your work. Fleeting note summary, literature note, abstract that out. Fleeting note summary, boom, add it to the Zettelkasten. All you need now is the most frictionless workflow of how you capture fleeting notes, process fleeting notes, and then just doing that blindly for the next 3 to 6 months until you hit a critical mass. And and it's just slowly letting it go. And so what I'd like for you to do is, let's solve the hardest problem right now. And the hardest problem is how am I going to capture? Where do I process? How do I process? Because if you can figure out those two workflows, then everything else comes into place. You already know how to do the mechanics of a Zettelkasten. Now it's, let me consume something now. Let me process it and let me build it. And so if you can just start reading that iPad, and the minute that you get to something that sort of pops at you, we'll stop, and I want you to just walk me through like a chef in the kitchen. I'm just going to stop you as you're throwing ingredients in, okay? I want to see what your recipe is.
Okay, we can totally do that. And I really appreciate the effort, but I know everyone tells you about this. You're probably sick of hearing it, but I appreciate the energy, the effort. I don't know how you sleep right now. I can tell you that I'm a total believer. Yeah, I think you know that you don't have to convince me about this stuff, even doing it poorly, right? Because I'm intellectually curious, like most of the people in the group, I would assume. And I read a lot. I try to read good articles. I have a lot of inflow of quality information that could help me or help my customers or things like that. And so this is not just like a hobby question for me or an academic question for me. Like, this is survival for me. And so even last year, like dabbling with Obsidian, right? It's just at the page level, all the differences between those two. Even just doing this poorly with Obsidian and trying to capture the big ideas from the various things I was reading, I did every single talk I gave last year, and every webinar, every video I did last year was built from that, was basically traversing the poorly formed Zettel in a not block related way. And still, it was so fast and so easy. And people kept asking me, like, how are you giving an interesting talk after interesting talk, different angles, different connections? And like you, probably people don't believe me when I tell them it's something this simple. They assume there's some kind of no pain, no gain magic behind it. So like, I totally believe that if I did this right, like if I did this better, that I could have even a better conversation partner and even better results. So I'm a total believer in that.
Your work.
I'm not avoiding the work. I'm actually going to do it.
Your work is evidence of that.
I appreciate that. All right, so for instance, here's a section that I think is important. I don't know if I was supposed to highlight it or not. My finger just went from muscle memory to highlight this passage.
And then what?
Okay.
Next step. You just keep reading?
Yeah, what do I think the real answer is now, or what would I normally do? Up until now, I would, again, knowing that Readwise is going to grab it and pull it in for me, I have a little trust in the system, right? The idea of a trusted system that this is gonna surface to me later. It's gonna show up in my daily notes underneath, that it popped in, and I can grab it and do something with it. If it was truly like profound, like I said, like this is something that's going to change my life or whatever, I would stop and I would start typing.
Can you do that?
Sure, I can do that now. You want me to do this in my personal graph or my?
Oh no! I want like no. Like you're reading the book.
Yeah.
Right, and you're capturing you have to capture the fleeting moment. You have to capture why that resonated with you. That's the first pass.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I got to type that.
You're going to do it in Rome?
Oh yeah.
What happens if you're reading the iPad when you're not at home with Rome open?
So that hasn't come up during the quarantine because I don't travel anymore. But when we're not in the zombie apocalypse, I do travel quite a bit for, speaking at conferences and events and things like that. So I would read on the plane, for example, with often not even internet connectivity, or at the hotel. So what I have done in the past is just pop up the notes from the Kindle app or something, because you can add notes to the highlight and just grab thoughts right there so that it's in context. That's probably what I would do.
Can you do that for me then? Instead of the iPad, use the Kindle instead? I'd just like to see the tools that you have and then using that to actually do the whole process.
No, it would be, I don't take my Kindle with me when I travel. It would be my iPad. So I would be on an airplane reading, and I'd see this passage right here and like it in the Kindle app on the iPad, meaning I'm in the Kindle application on the iPad, reading, which is where I am right now, reading this book, I just tapped on the highlight and I brought up, when you tap on the highlight, it brings up create a note to accompany it, right? And so I would then start typing in a note here to capture some of that.
Do it.
Right?
Get it done. Yeah.
You know, I actually have a keyboard attached. Here I am typing like a chump on the digital, and I've got a keyboard attached to this. Oh, okay. Those are the main points.
Can you read it back to me?
Yep. Yep. Same kind of leading note, high level points.
Can you actually read the passage to me and then the highlight?
Yes, I sure could if I remember to save it correctly. So common engineering and design practices seem as if they're deliberately intended to cause slips. Rows of identical controls and meters is a sure recipe for description similarity errors. Internal modes that are not very conspicuously marked are a clear driver of mode errors. Situations with numerous interruptions, yet where the design assumes undivided attention, are a clear enabler of memory lapses. And almost no equipment today is designed to support the numerous interruptions that so many situations entail.
Was that mixing your fleeting note capture and the highlight, or was that the whole highlight?
No, that's a highlight. That's the text in the book. It's an awesome book about the design of everyday things.
What's the fleeting note capture that you had?
So then I popped up a note over that. That's the highlighted text. And I said, rows of similar controls are a recipe for disaster is my first point that I would elaborate later. Systems need to be designed for people being interrupted. Next point, how do they proceed effectively and safely after interruption? How does this relate to business and their processes? Are there errors to be avoided from making things look too similar? What about software design or API design?
Perfect. Now, can you just keep reading? Well, let me ask you this. How do you feel right now?
I am happy, but I'm usually happy. Kind
of pumped, right? Kind of pumped because it's like,
I think I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, this is cool. It's like you're learning and you're engaged with what you're reading, and you almost kind of want to keep reading. And that's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to keep reading again until something sort of pops at you. Maybe not the whole paragraph so much, but maybe like it could be a couple of sentences, but just keep reading until something is just like, ooh, that's good.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you. Engaging with things versus surface level is definitely much more energizing. Okay. This book is very dense, so I usually only read a couple pages a day to get through this one because there's so much in there. So I found another one. Let's see, looks like it's 2 sentences. Do you want me to do the same process? Highlight and grab the note?
Yeah, and just quickly capture it. What I've realized is that when I'm reading and I have one of these fleeting moments, it's so ephemeral. It's like if I change my train of thought, then it's like, oh, it's gone. And I'm stopped.
Yep, I'm totally with you. Okay.
Can you read it back to me?
Oh,
Or can you read me
sure.
the
So
read me the passage first that was highlighted, and then let me know, and then let me know when you're going to do the fleeting note. I just want to hear it.
Yep, right on. So the passage verbatim is, fortunately, most errors do not lead to accidents. Accidents often have numerous contributing causes, no single one of which is the root cause of the incident.
Perfect.
And let me hit the note. And then my note was quickly, there is no one root cause for an incident. We must stop looking for them and stop thinking this way. How is the overall system contributing to this output?
What does that mean to you?
So we live in a society where people look for simple explanations for complicated things. Like everyone thinks things can be explained on a protest poster or on a tweet or whatever. And the reality is that most things are much more complicated than that. And we as humans tend to avoid the hard work of cogitating, right? Of thinking about the deep thoughts. It's just easier to say this is because of whatever, politicians, this is because of crime, this is because of whatever. But the reality is, in a system, the more I learn about systems thinking, is that there's often multiple contributing factors, right? And so the idea of having a newspaper article say, well, this accident was caused by X is almost surely not true. There's an entire system that produced X. What were the various pieces of that system that produced X?
Do you have any specific examples?
I mean, there are numerous examples. I'm also a minimalist on the news. So I don't really follow any. I do 15 minutes every Monday morning on the news. I don't have a lot of those, but I know when Chernobyl happened, for example, or even any of the things that it's easy to say that people ignored warning alarms or ignored meters that were reading abnormally. But the truth is that on any given day, there are some alarms, and on any given day, there are meters that are reading abnormally. Sometimes the meters malfunction, sometimes just things malfunction. They're complicated systems. And the 100,000 times that they ignored them and nothing happened, nobody said anything, nobody blamed them, right? And so what really happened was a system of politics that prevented people from whistleblowing or talking about errors, was construction costs being cut, right, to cheap out on safety measures that could have been there, was a hierarchy in the organization. So social pressure not to report on things or be the one guy who said, hey, this alarm's going off. So yeah, it goes off every day, shut up. And so the reality is that when you start to look at, well, what caused this accident, there were probably a half dozen to a dozen causes of this accident, and any one of which might have been sufficient on its own, but certainly, in aggregate caused the accident. And I think it's the same way for airline crashes. I think it's the same way for, space shuttle disasters. I think it's the same way for the environment. I think it's the same way for the economy, for most things. Like, unemployment is bad because of X. It's almost surely not because of X. It's because of dozens of other things.
Can you read me back your fleeting note again?
Yeah. There is no one root cause for an incident. We must stop looking for them and stop thinking this way. How is the overall system contributing to this output?
Can you go to your page on the shared graph? Or
Sure.
I'm just gonna go and share the screen.
Okay.
The whole idea with these fleeting notes, this first pass when you're reading, is to sort of get to this idea where it's kind of specific. It's kind of juicy. It's kind of deep compared to, I know I didn't catch it all, but the two sentences, they were good, but it was, I felt like it was missing the juice or the deepness of, like, if you captured this note and you weren't able to go back to this the next day, I feel like it would be like a little more difficult to pull this out, right? But the minute you said Chernobyl and then politics and then cheap out on safety, I knew what you were talking about. And that is the first pass fleeting notes. And that is what needs to go in to that Kindle highlight or that iPad highlight.
Okay.
Because that is what's going to get synced to Readwise and ends up in your graph, and it's going to end up in this captured page. Right?
Yep.
But
okay.
if you want this, you have to do this. And I don't know how you're going to do that, but this is going to fall flat, I feel like. You know, it's going to fall flat
Yep.
because if you go back to this, and here, life gets in the way. Sometimes you're going to be in a capture season. Sometimes you're going to be in a processing season. And sometimes you're just going to be on reprieve, right? But if you come back to this a month later, is it going to be trapped in amber, the aha moment or the juicy moment, or there's a reason that you put your finger on it and you highlighted it, even that little small action. And so when people ask me about, well, how are you supposed to highlight it? If I make them do this, they go, I'm not highlighting anymore. Unless it's important, you know? But the minute that you got, and all I had to do was ask like 1 or 2 questions. And once you, I'm telling you right now, like if you watch back this video and you started talking about Chernobyl, that's when something clicked. And you knew exactly why that stood out to you. And if you can capture that in this, then I'll see you in 6 months, bro. Because you already know how to do the structure. You already know how to do the process. You already know the conversation partner, obviously. You already have all the ways to consume it. And it's just a matter of getting to, I don't know how you do that. I would definitely recommend an accountability partner. I would definitely recommend, you know what I mean? Like teaching anyone that you can, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, you know, and discovering that, and also really polishing out what that system looks like. You know, if it's on your iPad, can you do it without internet? You know, if it's on your Kindle, can you do it, you know, away from the house? And preemptively starting to think about that and wrestling with that over time. You know, it took me about a month for me to be able to capture without losing some of it. Because at first I was doing a Siri shortcut and Siri would respond back to what's the timestamp? And I would have to hold those numbers in my head for that 10 seconds as Siri said that, and I'd lose it. And I go, shit, I have to listen back to it. Or I have to watch it again, right? Or read it again. But the minute that I go, this isn't working, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, and it was like, why don't I change my Siri shortcut? And instead of verbalizing it, I can just type it in 38 minutes and 57 seconds in. The minute I did that, I was able to capture clearer, you know? And it's just, I wanted you to experience what it felt like to go, like, did it feel different for you? Did it feel different, like getting a little bit more, like your hands in this, I don't like using plant analogies, but a little bit, your hands a little bit deeper in the soil of like what this is resonating with you with?
Oh, absolutely. You had me at context. Yeah, it's I'm a big believer in context, and as soon as you said that, like lights just went on right at the beginning. Like that's like the more context I have down the road, because you're right, interruptions happen, and I guess I wasn't taking the word fleeting seriously enough. Our thoughts are fleeting. I'm well aware of that, and and as much context. Well, I think you mentioned on a previous video that you're into storytelling and screenwriting, things like that. So you understand that a character has a want and they have a need, and I love how everybody asks you in every session about their wants. They want to learn about the logistics or the technical mechanics of it, you know, and things like that. And you dodge the question in a very Zen-like manner and ask and force us to confront what we need, which is to experience the flow, right? And to experience going through it. And you study storytelling, so you know that the worst thing you can have is a character in a white room. They need to be in a thick setting, right? They need to be in a context. If a character is not in a setting with a problem, you don't have a story, right? You don't. So you know.
How do you, like, you see the difference now, right? Between the shallow and the deeper fleeting notes. How do you prevent shallow fleeting notes for you?
Well, yeah, so for one thing, it was just a simple conceptual misunderstanding on my part. So I had thought that first capture was meant to go, you know, lickety split, like go really fast.
Do it again. Do it again.
And then the process. Yeah.
Do it again right now. Pick up the book. I'm going to put myself on mute. Just read until you stumble upon one that's like, oh, this is juice. and then like I don't want to break your flow this time, right? But I just want you to show me, right? That you can just read it and then you can capture not shallow but deep, like, oh, I got dirt underneath my fingernails, kind of deep, fleeting note.
Right on.
Cool. I'm just gonna put myself on mute.
Yeah.
Just let me know when you get it done, okay?
Okay. Okay. I've got to pass at this. Hopefully that wasn't too boring for you. A nice little break.
You know, like bombs could have been going off around you. If you watch back, like bombs could literally have been going off around you, and you would have been like, I don't care, I'm doing something right now. Like that concentration flow state, I'm telling you, I know it was beautiful, man. And I don't even want you to read it back to me because you got it. That right there was it. And if you can do that with every fleeting note that you capture, bye. I'll see you 6 months from now.
Yep.
You know, that's really what it is. And you ask me, you know, do I use it only for Zettelkasten? No, I take meeting notes, right? I take traditional hierarchical notes, but I don't, it's just like a meeting note, you know? Does it serve me a purpose? I mean, I can show you binders of work that I've done that have never been opened again. You know, that's not like, I've never seen anyone. Let me ask you this. Have you seen anyone with a like functioning, like hierarchical Rome that's teachable? It's like, I don't know. I've never seen it. But something like this with the Zettelkasten, and we know what we're doing. We're keeping it alive with every new note that we add to it. And we have to look at all the notes that we're adding to it. And so traditional hierarchical notes for me are just there, and it's out of my head, and it makes me feel like I'm learning something. And well, there is proof that when you write something down, you learn something, right? So it's like I am doing that. So I don't want to disregard like top-down structure. It's just in a Zettelkasten, I prefer the bottom up. Do I have any sort of traditional ways of doing that? Not really. Like sometimes my meeting notes are just literally I'll show you.
Yeah, and I think the root of this, by the way, it was a comment I read. I don't know if it was on Reddit or on the Slack or wherever, but somebody had made a point about not wanting to pollute their graph. Like, I don't want anything in there that's not a Zettel, like not something of value like that. And I'm thinking that's not the way I am. Like, I want to click on an author's name and see like anything I've ever said about that, or any book I've ever read, or I want to be able to refer back.
This is my meeting note. Like this is a meeting note. This is something that I had to get an outline ready for Tristan, right? So I got that done. But I mean, every time I pull up Tristan, it's going to come up, right?
Yeah.
I only pulled him up once, but you know what I mean? And so of course I do that, but it's not like something that like this timestamps for project, you know what I mean? So it's like, these are my notes. And if I go to project 42 lessons, it has it all there. Is it organized in a specific way that's going to allow me to find it easily? If I spent the time to figure it out, maybe I could learn from Rob Hasefield. I know he's stellar at doing queries and stuff, but it's a tool, it's a note-taking tool. And the tool for me is a simple, lightweight note-taking system. And so I use it for that tool primarily. Do I do notes and regular notes with it? Sure. I just haven't seen a system or workflow that is simple and easy to teach to anybody and that works. If someone can figure it out, I think that's the sort of right brain, left brain sort of connection, Until then, I'm happy with just using Rome Research as that tool for network thought, utilizing a Zettelkasten, which is a note-taking system. So the tool and the system, that's how I'm using it. I don't think there's no rights or wrongs either, though, And
no, that basically answered my question. There's no, I can't remember the original post, but it's something around like, I don't want to pollute my graph, but that clearly is not an issue. And like, I didn't even know what he meant by that, but I just didn't, you don't want to get, a year or two down the road and say, well, gee, I wish I hadn't have done this.
All you need to do is just make sure that nothing goes into permanent notes. As long as nothing pollutes this, like you see this right here.
Yeah.
Like that's a pollution. That's the only thing that will get in the way. And basically what this is I reference this block here. I don't know where, but let me look for it. Does that make sense? So as long as I don't, there we go, right here, right? And if I replace this with text, it's gone. That's the only way to pollute the Zettelkasten, is if you block reference any of the permanent notes in the permanent notes page. Other than that, you can free reign, Yeah.
Yep. No, right on. That answered my question. So I'm just going to keep, because like I said, I basically live my day in Rome.
Yeah.
So I just keep using it for all the things I use it for. But now I'll have a kick-ass Zettelkasten from which I'll build all my presentations and talks and articles and whatever I'm doing. So that's awesome. And you answered my need instead of my want about the two levels of highlights and notes, which was good. Those are my two main questions. It was really just that. There's actually nothing stopping me when I plan on getting rolling.
Accountability partner.
I mean, these guys
really helps. Like even if like, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but I really feel like setting that up with RBC3 now, where it's like, okay, everyone just needs to pair up in small groups, just so you can keep that fire. It's almost like you're carrying like a fire, through the wild. And it's like, all you have to do is get to over here and you have kerosene over here, but it's just, you got to just carry it for some, this distance. And it really helps when you have people there that can like, I went through that with you. I understand where you're at. And it's that mutual vulnerability kind of thing, And Yeah. And if all else fails, it's like you can DM me. I want like DM me anytime. Like I just want a bunch of DMs like 3, enter, 4, enter, 5, enter. Cool. A week later, 6, 7, 8, 9, enter. You know what I mean? You don't have to say anything. Just DM me a number. And it's just, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Like I said, I bought the t-shirt. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt, the Rome t-shirt. I'm totally in. Love what you've done with this. I apologize that at the beginning, I didn't quite understand the pedagogy. Like I didn't quite understand the Zen nature of what you were doing. Like I think like several people, I said, well, is this a course on Rome? Because I already use Rome all day long. Is this, you know, and once I realized, I said, oh man, I got to start catching up. So I've been doing about 3 hours a day to make sure that I've got everything, that I've got every drop of value that I can get out of this, and that I'm interacting and contributing as much as I can also.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome, man. It's not, I think the word my wife said, you guys are calling this a book club. I think that might be a mislabel.
that's what do you call it? That's, you know, when they do money laundering and they have like a laundromat as like the, you know what I mean? It's like, this is like the front, you know what I mean? It's like book club is the front. What's really going on is like life transformation, getting in touch with your childhood, mutual vulnerability, group therapy, you know?
I hear you. Because we've got a 20-week-old baby. And so I do a lot of this during these naps. I don't do 3 hours in a chunk. First of all, nobody can concentrate like that. But you know, throughout the day, and that's what I kept saying to my wife. Like, this is worth it. Like, I know I'm spending all of his nap times, you know, doing this, but this is really worth it.
Why?
And it started to click for me. Well, because I said, both personally, I'm just intellectually curious and I read a lot, and I'm a minimalist, so I don't like a lot of noise. And professionally, I am a storyteller and presenter. And so my livelihood is, my survival depends on having a good, repeatable, frictionless system to handle the good ideas that are coming in, make them my own, make them not into a graveyard, and make them relate to each other. Like, I didn't read you the one I just took, but that one I actually said, I'm not sure I agree with this. I think it was just always one of the questions as a skeptic I want to ask, like, is there another explanation? Like, this sounds great, but is there another explanation for what's going on here? Is there, you know, maybe this isn't true. Let's dig deeper. I love that. I love that it's not just going to be lost as a highlight, it's lost as a, you know, 3 years from now saying, you know, there was a really good design book I read. And I know he said something that at the time I thought would change my life. I wonder what that was. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, this is personal growth, and it's professional survival. It's psychological survival, because everyone in this book club is dealing with too many input streams right now, too much good information, and, you know, reducing signal to noise. So this is something that's how I phrase it to my wife. Like, this is like survival level. Like, I will reap the benefits of this every day.
Wow. That's what it is. You said survival. This is survival. Wow. That's a powerful vision, man. Very powerful.
Well, I think I appreciate that. We're all living in 2021 though. I mean, I'm sure that what I'm articulating is what everybody's, you know, thinking about right now, is that I just got too many input streams, there's so many good ideas. We're so connected, right? It's not like 200 years ago, we're in a village on a mountain somewhere, and, you know, there's like 2 other smart people and you're all trading the same books back and forth. You could read everything at that point. But that's not the world we live in. And there's so many good ideas. And I know everyone in this group is like, your brain is hungry. And you want to find the best things that you can take from different schools of thought, different philosophies, you know, learn everything we can. But the reality is that most of that is just wasted effort if you don't have a system like this.
Ouch. That keeps me going.
I don't know how you do it, man. I'm usually considered like, they always put me at the end of every conference, the end of every day. Like, if we're meeting with a customer, I'm like the last person to talk, because I'm usually known as the high energy guy. And then I crash right afterwards. You have been just putting out so much content here, so many videos, office hours, you're on the chat. I've seen you on the Slack, you're in the chat room. I don't know how you do it. Hopefully it's not with any illegal substances. It's just your wiring.
No, I mean, I got 16 years sober, so it's not that at all. It's just, you know, you get a second chance at life, and everything looks, you know, if you're this close to being 6 feet dead, it's like everything looks up from there, you know, and it's just gratitude. Gratitude. If I had to sum it up, it's gratitude. Just grateful.
Yeah, I think it's your passion. I think you're a true believer in this stuff. You've got, because that helps, right? You can't fake this kind of stuff. That's what I always tell salespeople, right? You can't fake it.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot about your ethics, right? It says something about you as an ethical person. I watched a little of the clip earlier today that you posted, about selling this versus not selling this, things like, I think that speaks volumes for you, that you get the ethics of this, you understand, and you got to eat, you got to pay your mortgage, man. There's nothing wrong with making money, especially if you do it ethically and if you're bringing something of value to the world. And so I hope you do. I hope you have products, services, whatever that you're selling down the road that bring true value. I know I'd be signing up. Yeah. But I really think it speaks a lot to your ethics, that you believe in this, you believe in us, you put this much time in. It's an incredible experience. I don't know if I could tell somebody that I've been a part of a book club, but right, it feels more like Marine basic training or something, like we're about to be paratrooping into some mountain somewhere. Yeah. But it's been a hell of an experience.
Thank you. I received that. Okay, I do have to run. I got a 9:30. So okay. You're awesome. Great work. I'm excited for you. And 60 notes. 6 months. Get 6 months. 3 to 6 months. You got this.
Oh, yeah.
All right, brother.
Yeah, no problem at all for that. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.